Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into a classic today. One of those books that's been around forever and people still swear by it.
You mean Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People?
That's the one. We're going to see if this advice really is timeless, and we've got excerpts straight from the book itself.
It's kind of wild how this book from, 1937 is still so popular.
Right. Maybe it really does tap into something fundamental about how we, connect as humans.
Well, Carnegie kicks things off by saying that the biggest thing people crave is that feeling of being important, appreciated.
Like, it's not just ego or vanity, but a real driving force.
Exactly. And it plays out in everything, like how we justify our actions, even if they're, not so great.
Like that story about Two Gun Crowley, the gangster. He was in a police standoff and still wrote this letter claiming he had a kind heart.
Seriously. This guy committed some brutal crimes, but still, there's this need to see himself as the good guy, the hero of his own story.
Makes you wonder if we all do that to some extent, right?
Probably. But the point is, if we recognize this need in other S, it changes how we interact with them, even the difficult ones.
More empathy, less conflict, maybe?
Exactly. It's not about condoning bad behavior, but understanding what's driving it. That's where real change comes in.
Okay, so that's the foundation everyone wants to feel important, but how do we actually put that into practice?
Well, that's where those 6 famous principles come in, like the first one, become genuinely interested in others. Carnegie tells this story about a salesman who couldn't land a client for years.
Oh yeah, I remember this one. Kept focusing on his product, the client wasn't biting.
Right, until he shifted focus and asked about something the client was passionate about, the hotel greeters of America.
So it's not just small talk, but tapping into what truly excites someone.
Exactly. The client lit up talking about it, and that's when the real connection as the sale happened.
Shows you gotta listen for what makes people's eyes light up, not just your own agenda.
And then there's the power of a simple smile. Might sound basic, but Carnegie argues it's huge.
When I first read that, I was like, really? A smile? But then he tells that story about the baby in the doctor's office.
Oh yeah, everyone's tense, stressed out, and then this baby comes in, greeting ear to ear.
And the whole mood shifts, right? Like you can't help but smile back.
It's contagious. Warmth, openness, it disarms people, makes them feel comfortable.
Okay, genuine smile, got it. What else is on Carnegie's list?
This one so many people struggle with, myself included. Remembering names.
Oh, tell me about it. I meet someone, great chat, 5 minutes later, their name's gone. Super embarrassing.
But Carnegie tells about this guy, Jim Farley, who could remember the names of like 50,000 people.
50,000. Was he some kind of memory genius?
It wasn't just a trick. He genuinely cared, remembered details about their lives, used it to connect.
So it's not just the name, but showing you care enough to remember what matters to them.
Exactly. Makes people feel seen, valued. Like when someone unexpectedly remembers, your name feels good, right?
Totally. Like, I actually matter to them. So, smile, remember names. What else is key for those strong connections?
This ties into genuine interest, being a good listener. Not just waiting for your turn to talk, but truly listening.
Oh man, I catch myself doing that sometimes, thinking about what I'll say next instead of what they're saying.
Happens to us all. But Carnegie tells this funny story about a party. He barely said a word to this woman.
And she loved him.
Thought he was the most fascinating conversationalist ever, all because he let her talk about herself, her interests.
That's kind of brilliant, honestly, the power of making someone feel heard.
It really is a skill you can develop, being present, putting aside your own thoughts, focusing on what they're saying.
So we've got genuine interest, a warm smile, remembering names, and truly listening. Solid foundation, right?
Definitely. But Carnegie had to stop there. There's more to uncover.
All right, so we're back diving deeper into how to win friends and influence people. We've covered those core principles for, building connections. But what about when things get a little, tricky, like disagreements and stuff?
Oh, Carnegie's got us covered there too. In fact, a whole section of the book is about winning people to your way of thinking.
Sounds a little manipulative, though, doesn't it?
Not really. It's not about tricks or forcing your opinions on others, more about understanding how persuasion works, even when you disagree.
Okay, so less about Jedi mind tricks, more about communication.
Exactly. He starts off strong, saying you can't win an argument. He even tells a story about himself getting into this heated debate about Shakespeare and realizing later he was wrong.
Makes him seem more human, right? We've all been there, totally convinced we're right then. Oops.
The point is, arguing rarely gets you anywhere good. Just leaves people frustrated and no one changes their mind.
True. So if arguing is out, what's the alternative?
Well, he talks about this top salesman, Patrick J. O'Hare, who had this unique approach to objections. When customers criticized his product, he wouldn't argue back.
What? He just took it.
Even better, he'd agree with them, sometimes even praising the competitor's product.
No way. Seems kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It totally disarms people. By acknowledging their point, he opened up the conversation instead of shutting it down.
So it's like you take the sting out of the criticism, show you're not just pushing your own agenda.
And that leads right into principle number 2. Respect the other person's opinion, Never say you're wrong.
Ooh, that's a tough one, especially when you feel strongly about something.
It is. But Carnegie says telling someone they're wrong just makes them defensive. He uses the example of Theodore Roosevelt and President Taft. They were friends, then had this huge falling out,
Politically, right, ended up splitting the Republican Party.
and paving the way for Woodrow Wilson to win. Carnegie argues all that criticism just pushed Taft further away.
So what's the better move? Instead of saying you're wrong, what do you do?
Find common ground, acknowledge where you do agree, and approach disagreements with, like, humility. It's a dialogue, not a battle.
Working towards a solution together, not just trying to be right.
Exactly. And sometimes that means admitting when you messed up. That's principle 3. If you're wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically.
Pride swallowing time. But I can see how that'd be powerful.
Think about Lincoln. After Gettysburg, he was furious at General Meade for not pursuing the Confederates.
Yeah, seems like a missed opportunity. Lincoln must have been fuming.
He wrote this scathing letter to Meade, tearing him apart, but never sent it.
Why not? Did he cool down and realize Meade wasn't so bad after all?
Maybe. But Lincoln was smart. Criticizing wouldn't fix anything, just damage their relationship, hurt morale.
So bigger picture thinking, right? Sometimes admitting fault is the more strategic move.
Which leads to principle 4, begin in a friendly way. Sounds obvious, but
But it's more than just being polite, right? It's about that genuine approach, wanting to understand the other person.
yeah. Carnegie quotes Woodrow Wilson, "If you come at me with your fists doubled, mine will double as fast as yours." But come with an open mind, willing to listen, and you're way more likely to find that common ground.
So starting friendly, acknowledging the other person's view, admitting when you're wrong, it's about creating the right atmosphere.
An atmosphere of respect and collaboration. That's how you persuade effectively. You're on the same side, solving a problem together.
Makes sense. What's next on Carnegie's list of persuasion techniques?
This one's called The Secret of Socrates, all about getting the other person saying yes, yes, right from the start.
Wait, how do you get agreement before you even say what you want?
Not about tricks, but finding that common ground early on. Start by highlighting points you agree on. Build that shared understanding.
So you're kind of establishing a we're in this together vibe before any potentially divisive stuff comes up.
Exactly. There's this story about a bank manager who needed info from a client, but the client was hesitant.
Oh, I hate when that happens. Like, just give me what I need.
Instead of getting demanding, the manager asked about the client's business, showed genuine interest, found things they agreed on.
And I bet the client loosened up, felt more comfortable sharing the info.
Exactly. Positive atmosphere, goal achieved, no confrontation needed. Sometimes empathy goes a long way.
So start friendly, find common ground, get those yeses. What else?
This one's all about letting the other person talk, get it all out. He calls it the safety valve in handling complaints.
I can see that. Sometimes you just gotta vent, you know?
He tells this story. This sales guy loses his voice right before a big meeting.
Oh no, and that's every salesperson's nightmare.
He goes ahead with it, but he can't talk, so he just listens to the client, nodding, smiling, showing he's engaged.
Turning that weakness into a strength.
And guess what? He landed the biggest order of his career.
Wow. The power of shutting up and listening. We probably miss so many opportunities because we're too busy talking.
It's true. And that leads to principle 7. See things from the other person's point of view. Simple concept, but
tough to do, right? We all have our own biases, how we see the world.
Carnegie says you can't influence someone until you understand their perspective. He tells this story about seeing people making fires under trees in a park.
Oh no. Fire hazard.
He'd get all authoritative, threatening arrests, but it just made people mad. Then he realized he was approaching it wrong.
Not seeing it from their side. Maybe they just wanted to roast some marshmallows.
So he changed tactics. Instead of orders, he'd chat, ask about their plans, mention his own love of fires as a kid.
More human, less park ranger.
Way more effective. They were open to hearing about the dangers because he was connecting with them, not just enforcing rules.
It's like check your own assumptions at the door, try to see their side. Changes the whole dynamic.
And that brings us to principle 8, the last one in this section. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to.
Isn't a reputation something you earn, though? How do you just give it to someone?
It's about expressing your belief in their abilities, setting that high bar, and encouraging them to reach it. He tells this story about a charwoman who was, okay at her job, but not amazing.
Did her boss offer a bonus or something? Like, do better, get more money?
Nope, he just complimented her work, told her how much he appreciated her attention to detail, her effort.
Seriously. Just a compliment.
And it worked. She felt valued, and she stepped up her game, went above and beyond.
It's like, if you believe in someone, give them that positive image to live up to, they often rise to the occasion.
Exactly. It's powerful stuff. Recognize potential, encourage it, watch amazing things happen.
So we've got those 8 principles, a whole toolkit for handling disagreements and getting people on your side.
And there's more. Carnegie's got 4 more techniques, all about inspiring action, motivating people to be their best.
And we're back for our final deep dive into how to win friends and influence people. We've talked about understanding that deep human need, those 6 principles for connection, and even how to navigate disagreements without, turning them into World War III.
And now it's about taking all those skills and actually inspiring action in others, helping people reach their full potential, right?
It's like going beyond just getting along to actually motivating positive change. So what's the first key to sparking that change?
Carnegie's 9th principle is about framing things the right way, encouraging growth. He says, make the fault seem easy to correct. And he uses this example of a friend taking dance lessons for his wedding. First instructor was super critical, pointed out every mistake.
Yeah, I can relate. That kind of criticism just makes you want to quit.
The guy was totally demoralized. But then he found another instructor who focused on his strengths, made the steps seem easy to learn.
So it's not about ignoring the areas that need work, but presenting them in a way that feels achievable, not overwhelming.
Exactly. Think about it. Have you ever had someone believe in you, even when you doubted yourself? That could be incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Like that story Carnegie tells about Ely Culberson, the bridge expert. He was a terrible player at first.
But his wife, Josephine, she saw his potential. She focused on his analytical mind, said he had a natural gift for the game.
And just that belief, that encouragement, turned him into a champion.
It's amazing what a little encouragement can do. Makes you think about the people you interact with. How can you offer that kind of support?
Great question to ponder. And it leads right into the next principle, aligning your suggestions with what the other person wants.
Carnegie says, make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest.
So it's about motivation, right? Not just giving orders, but inspiring people to want to do something.
Think about Charles Schwab, the steel guy, amazing leader. He visits this mill that's not meeting its quota, doesn't yell or anything, just takes some chalk.
And writes on the floor.
A big 6, the number of heats the night shift produced.
So the day shift saw it as a challenge.
They were competitive, wanted to beat the night shift, worked hard, produced 7 heats, and that friendly competition just kept pushing production up.
Smart, not threats, but tapping into that inner drive to achieve, outperform.
Which leads us to Principle 11, throw down a challenge.
Ooh, I like this one. It's about pushing people to, step outside their comfort zones, go for something bigger.
Exactly. He tells the story of Lewis Laws, who became warden of Sing Sing prison. Tough job. He was hesitant.
Understandably so. Sing Sing's no joke.
But Governor Al Smith motivated him by saying it would take a big person to handle this, appealing to his pride.
Saying it was a test of his character, huh?
And that was it. Laws took on the challenge, became one of the most successful wardens ever.
Sometimes we just need that push, that belief that we're capable of more than we think.
And it's all about framing the task in a way that inspires people to rise to that occasion. Which brings us to Carnegie's final principle. Be a leader.
It's like a culmination of everything we've talked about, right? Taking all those relationship skills and using them to bring out the best in others.
Not about bossing people around, but inspiring them, encouraging them, understanding them, having that shared vision.
He tells this story about a guy who needed to convince a subcontractor to lower his prices. Didn't go in demanding, but instead.
He focused on the guy's pride in his work, praised his craftsmanship.
And I bet that appealed to the subcontractor more than a fight over money.
Absolutely. The guy felt respected, and they reached an agreement. A win-win.
It's really about building that cooperation, that loyalty, not forcing it. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Carnegie's work, what are you taking away from all this?
I think the biggest thing is just how relevant this stuff still is. Human nature doesn't really change. So understanding these principles, how we connect, how we influence, it's timeless.
And it's not some theoretical mumbo-jumbo. It's about real-world actions, changes we can make in our everyday interactions. Carnegie says, turn this book into a working handbook, not just something you read and forget.
So our challenge to you listening out there is this. What's one principle you're going to try applying this week? Could be something small, like remembering someone's name, giving a genuine compliment, or really listening to someone's perspective.
Give it a shot. See what happens when you put this wisdom into action. And until next time, keep diving deep, keep learning, keep connecting.